Hey everybody, welcome to a new chapter of Old Man Brad. Whether you are new to the show or returning for a new chapter, thank you so much for giving me a listen. And if you love the show, drop me a review over in your favorite podcast app or become a patron over at patreon.com/oldmanbrad. So this week I have another new film and another great interview to bring you. I will be giving my quick thoughts for the new film called For Sale by Exorcist, which comes out March 11th. And I have an interview with the director of the film, Melissa LaMartina. I'm excited for you to hear that. We had such a great talk. Chatting with her was so much fun. Before we dive into all of that, I just want to say if you're in the Cincinnati area, come out to Frightful Fridays on the third Friday of the month. I am thankful to be partnered with the Esquire Theater to host a horror screening each month. And our screening for March, on March 21st, is going to be April Fool's Day from 1986. And then we already have April ready to go. So April 18th at 10 p.m., we're going to be doing the 4K restoration of Lucio Fulci's The Beyond. So watch for both of those. Cannot wait for them. But come out March 21st, April 18th, and let's watch a movie together. All right, let's move into For Sale by Exorcist.
Our guest this morning is Ms. Susan Price, a real estate agent and certified exorcist.
I'm a certified exorcist. I find houses, cleanse them, and sell them.
Wait, really?
Mostly residential, but I have had some success on the commercial side. These spirits were restless.
This house is haunted.
He did not mention the cemetery in the listing. Y'all see that there? That is black mold. Could be a sign of demonic activity or water damage. Either way, it's not good.
After years of exercising haunted houses, realtor Susan Price finally finds her dream home until the spirits she evicted return, threatening to make it her final resting place. Now she must banish them for good. This is written by Chris LaMartina and Rob Walker. It is directed by Melissa LaMartina and stars Emily Klassen, John Dimes, Helen Marie Ball, and many others. And like I said, this comes out March 11th. I'm going to save most of my thoughts for after the interview, but right up front, before we jump into that interview, I'm going to say I had a blast with this movie. It is a mockumentary style movie. So think in the vein of like What We Do in the Shadows, things like The Office and stuff like that, where we're following her around as she's going on these house showings and what shows up in the houses. It's a good time. But that's all I really want to get into it right now. I want to jump into my interview with Melissa. I had an absolute blast talking to her. So much fun. But let's jump into that interview right now, and I will talk to you on the other side. My guest today has been involved in multiple projects, including Call Girl of Cthulhu and the WNUF Halloween special. Her feature film directorial debut, For Sale by Exorcist, comes out March 11th. I want to welcome in Melissa LaMartina. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So tell everybody a little bit about For Sale by Exorcist.
So For Sale by Exorcist is a mockumentary horror comedy made in Baltimore. It follows the exploits of a real estate agent named Susan Price, who specializes in cleansing and selling haunted and possessed houses.
How did you guys come up with this idea? That's what I want to know. It's really interesting.
It's super fun. So a few different things. So Chris LaMartina, my husband, who co-wrote the movie with a friend of ours, Rob Walker, there were a few different things that kind of came into the inspiration for this movie. One of them was that Chris became fascinated by the fact that real estate agents use their own faces to sell houses. Like every billboard for a real estate agent, has their face, not the houses they've sold, So sort of following that of, okay, so who is that person? Like, who is this character that is on this poster? And then another piece of it was when we went on our honeymoon about 10 years ago now, we went to New Orleans. And in New Orleans, you'll see signs all over the place that tell you whether a house that's for sale is haunted or not haunted. So that kind of took us down a path of like, what might someone's career look like if they specialize in those haunted houses?
That's interesting. And was it always intended to be mockumentary style? Or was that kind of like started it and go, what if we do it this way?
I believe so. Chris, as the writer and sort of the brains behind this script, could speak better to that. But as far as I know, it was always a mockumentary following season, because he and I both have a real interest in committing to the bit, like with WNUF, which it's funny because you mentioned in your intro that I was involved in that. I am barely involved in WNUF. So it was before he and I met. And I am in one of the commercials in WNUF Halloween special. I did co-produce and play the lead in the Out There Halloween mega tape, which is WNUF 2, but was not involved creatively with WNUF. However, it was really funny once we started working on Call Girl of Cthulhu. I was like, wait a minute. I'm in the movie you're editing right now. So yeah. So, but we're both really into committing to the bit. My background is in theater. When I was directing theater, I was always into immersion. We did a Bucket of Blood. We took it to the stage. So we did the stage version of A Bucket of Blood. I set it in a club, so you're in the actual club. And then we had a little stage that was Walter's apartment but for the most part, like everything's unfolding around you. I did a production of Frankenstein where I wanted it to feel like you were in the brain of, in this case, Victoria Frankenstein. It was an adaptation. Did a production of Medea, the Greek tragedy, where I set it in the 1930s and I had a silent movie in the middle of it and did one of the scenes as a press conference. So we're both really into kind of like pushing how real you can make something feel. And I think that's part of why the mockumentary was so appealing to us. And that really guided my hand in not only directing it, but then also kind of serving as an assistant editor on it, where I would pick takes before Chris went on to doing the actual edit. And I want everything to feel like it's unfolding in reality. Like we're not anticipating what's going to happen, which means like a take might be longer. You might have like a moment where nothing's really going on because you want to have that element of surprise as really following these characters. And I love playing in that kind of a sandbox,
As you were, as you said, you filmed it as you're in the kind of the editing booth. Is there anything as you were going along that you unfortunately had to let go, or, different versions, just like, oh, I kind of like that one, but it doesn't work for the final?
Yeah, actually, we're really fortunate in that there's very little that we shot that is not in the final movie.
Okay.
Maybe a line here and there just to like play with pacing and things like that. But for the most part, we shot what was on the page and then everything just like happily worked out. So, which, means if we do a physical release, there aren't going to be many bonus features like deleted scenes, but.
And do you think a theatrical background really helped you out with that? Of like, I don't have to overshoot a lot of things.
Yeah, I think it did. And so, my theatrical background really started with acting. And I think this is very much like an actor's movie from a director's perspective. A lot of it like really hinges on the performances in this movie, particularly in trying to make it feel real and feel like we're really following these people. So I think it helped because I could kind of visualize performance-wise what I really wanted to see, and how I wanted it to unfold. We shot with 2 cameras at all times. We had 2 directors of photography so that we could really focus primarily one camera on Susan, our lead, and then the other one capturing other characters, the rest of the room, so that we could really cut back and forth within the same scene, and also time saving. But yeah, like I really do think that my background in theater helped because there's again that like immersive nature of it, where when you're watching a play, like everything's got to be like spot on start to finish because your audience is right there. And I wanted to be able to achieve that as much as possible with this film, that same feeling.
You mentioned the character Susan, played by Emily Klassen, she just seemed like she was all in. She had I don't know if she really has the accent or if she'd played that up for the movie. Were there scenes as you were doing it, like improv? Were there moments for her to improv some things, some little like looks at the camera, some winks or whatnot?
So not as much as I thought we would. And so Emily and I know each other from working in theater, and then she was in the Out There Halloween mega tape as well. But she and I first met working in theater, and so I knew this would be a person who would really like bring that level of preparation, all of that was necessary to this role. She is from Louisiana. She ended up putting Susan from a different city. She was like, I really think she's more this like, so she does like a slight variation of her accent. What was funny though, is we would be on set and she would sometimes just like be Emily's cute little Southern accent. We'd have to be like, gotta like dial it to Susan, to like kick that notch over a little bit. We did a little bit of improv, a lot of the little glances and stuff, though, we really mapped out just because, we wanted it to feel like we're kind of like catching someone reacting in the moment, but there was a little bit of play that we got to do, but, we shot it in 12 days. So we had to be really like on with getting everything that we needed to.
And that always seems to be whenever I talk to, indie filmmakers, especially indie horror filmmakers, like, we only had 10 to 15 days typically to get this done. So there's no time for fluff.
Yeah.
What challenges did that arise for you to be like, oh crap, we only got 12 days?
Yeah, well, a lot of the challenges really came in pre-production because it's like, thank you, Chris, for writing a movie about a real estate agent because it's like 1,000 fucking locations, It's like, so finding all of these houses, there were a lot of favors called in with friends. One of the biggest challenges was there's a house that has to overlook a cemetery. And me, again, being committed to the bit, I was like, it's gotta really be, we really need to be able to open that door and there's that cemetery. Chris was saying, we could cut between two places. We could go to the cemetery somewhere else, get the house we like this other place. No, I'm committed. So I flyered, oh my gosh, I've made a Google map of like every cemetery that I could find in the area from like here to like hour and a half radius, and I just went and started flyering houses and ended up finding the house that we needed about an hour away from where we live. They called me back. And then when we showed up to meet them, we ended up drinking wine with this couple. They were lovely. Then we showed up to shoot the scene. They just left us there. Our whole crew, our cast, they said, our numbers are on the blackboard in the laundry room. Call us if you need us.
Oh, wow.
Total strangers. We met them. It was incredible. Like, it was one of those things where we had such a challenge and like, I was not ready to back down, and it paid off not only for the film, but also in this like nice little humanity thing of just meeting these wonderful people who probably never would have dreamed their house was going to be in a movie and just welcomed us with open arms. I love those little moments like that.
And it is one of those that it is kind of a pivotal piece of the film that you're just like, I gotta, it's gotta be right. Otherwise you're like you said, committed to the bit. The bit's gonna fall flat if I don't find what I need.
Exactly. Yeah.
Were all of the locations in and around, the Baltimore area? Yeah,
we were primarily within the city and then branched out a little bit. The farm is actually in the same town that the house with the cemetery is in central Maryland. So we never really had to go too far, but we did have a couple locations that were about an hour away.
Well, I mean, that kind of helped out, right? It didn't... It
wasn't too bad.
Wasn't too bad, especially with as many locations.
Mm-hmm.
With a condensed schedule, with all the locations, how many locations in total did you end up shooting in?
Oh my gosh, that's a really great question.
Because only 12 days, were there multiple where it's like, okay, it's this house in the morning, this house in the afternoon?
We did have a few days like that where we were splitting the day between locations, but then sort of offsetting that was, we had a few days where we were shooting just at the hotel or just at the retirement community. So I would say all told, we probably had between 10 and 12 locations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a lot for a shorter shoot. Like,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
praise to you for being able to pull it all together.
Thank you.
It comes out March 11th. You had a premiere, what was it, late last year in Baltimore, showing it to a crowd?
We did. Yeah, we had our Baltimore premiere at the Parkway Theater. Before that, we had our official world premiere at Nightmares Film Festival, where I won Best Director, which was really exciting.
Oh, at Nightmares in Columbus?
Yes, yeah. I love that festival so much. It's amazing. Like, Jason and Chris are incredible people. Like, they just create this environment where it's like, we've gone several years because we were there with Out There, and then the year in between Out There and this one, I do a horror hosting character too, so like an Elvira type thing.
Okay.
Shock Tail Hour with Aurora Borealis, and so I put together a game show, a horror centric game show, and did that at Nightmares a couple years ago.
That's just up the road from me, and I've never had a chance to be able to go because I hosted another convention, and it's always the same weekend.
Yeah, well, if you ever can, you got to make the trip over there. It's really phenomenal.
Comes out March 11th. What is the future of the film after that? You mentioned possibly physical, or is that in the cards? Or
I hope so. So we're really pushing for it, because Chris and I love, and we know a lot of horror fans love, a physical release and like all the things that you can kind of play with doing that. So we're really pushing for it. We're trying to kind of nudge Dread as much as we can about like, hey, we think it'd be really great. So we'll see. They tell us maybe.
Any ideas out there for us to see Susan Price appear again, possibly? Who knows?
Well, man, we had this whole plan. So like before we made this for a studio, we were talking about like, do we want to make this on our own, all that kind of stuff. And had we done that, like originally Chris really envisioned that this would be like a series, where you'd follow Susan like going to different houses. So like kind of a monster of the week type thing, so that was kind of the initial vision. And then we were like, oh man, wouldn't it be fun for like a marketing thing to like send Emily out to like conventions and stuff and do like a PowerPoint presentation about selling a haunted house, and treat it like it's real.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be so fun? Yeah. Because we try to treat it like it's a real thing. All the opening credits are as if this is all real, and so again, committing to the bit, we wanted to send her out into the world as Susan.
Oh yeah. And you had, the rival realtor in the whole thing, the big TV star type one. It was a really fun movie. You guys did a great job, and I wish you all the best with this.
Thank you.
Melissa, I want to thank you so much for chatting with me. Where can people kind of follow along to you to see, where For Sale by Exorcist kind of goes and what you might have going on in the future?
Yeah, sure. So I'm at Melissa LaMartina on Instagram. I'm at Aurora_Borealis on Instagram as well, if people are interested in the horror hosting thing. And I'm over on Blue Sky at Aurora Borealis over there as well.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to chat with me and making a fun movie. Everybody needs to go check it out.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank Melissa again for chatting with me. It was a blast. And I will say she messaged me after the chat. I know in the interview, she said, I think 12 locations. They filmed that in the 12 days. She said it was actually 16 locations. So 16 locations, different locations they filmed in their 12 days of shooting. So it was a quick turnaround for them. And they did a great job pulling it all together. So again, this movie is a blast. Emily Klassen you could just tell in this movie, she's just having so much fun as this realtor that is going around showing houses and finding out, are they possessed? Are they not possessed? What can we do to get these out? There's a scene with a succubus that is hilarious. It had me almost in tears laughing so hard for what happened. There's other different entities that take over a house, one with a bleeding wall. There's another one with creepy kids, and it's just a fun film. The character of Susan, she is very like go-getter-esque, very happy with what she does and like trying to stop all this, and just the looks she makes at the camera where she'll just kind of look with the eyebrows up or give a little wink. John Dimes, who plays like this friend of hers, he comes in as a priest at one point. He comes in as, he's kind of like she uses as his consultant. So funny. So funny. And I know in the interview she says committing to the bit, and they do. It pays off for me. If something like a What You Do in the Shadows mockumentary style comedy is up your alley, I think you should definitely put For Sale by Exorcist on your list, because it is a very, very enjoyable watch that I had a good time watching. All right, so that will do it for Sale by Exorcist. On my way out, this year I want to give double features for what we just talked about. Obviously, watch For Sale by Exorcist at home, but a film that you could double feature with it. Right off the top of my head, I thought, what the easy thing is to do What We Do in the Shadows, because this is a mockumentary type of film that you would think of when you say horror mockumentary. A lot of the times that is the first one people will go to. So I really had to try to think of like, what are some other ones that would be a good double feature with this? Do I do like a Horror in the High Desert? I've only seen a couple of the VHS or Blair Witch or any kind of fake documentary or like found footage type of films. And I came up with the movie to watch with For Sale by Exorcist. And that is Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. That is this documentary style film about a serial killer. For Sale by Exorcist deals with, obviously, exorcisms in the housing market and other stuff like that. This one deals with a serial killer, and I honestly think they would both play together very well. Behind the Mask, you can rent it, or it's available on AMC Plus. There's your double feature for the week. You can go watch For Sale by Exorcist, and if you've never seen Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, go check that one out. I would love to see a sequel to that one. If you do watch it, let me know what you think of them back to back. Well, that will do it for another chapter of Old Man Brad. Just make sure you subscribe to the show and you will never miss any chapter or any of my series, my Tales from Tubi series, where I dive through the depths of Tubi to try to find you those diamonds in the rough. And it's more rough than diamonds most of the time, let me tell you. And then my new series that is coming out very soon called Versus, where we are going to have the reboot of a film versus the original, battle it out for a winner take all. But just subscribe and you will never miss any of those. I'll be back soon. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.